All right, Bulls fans, we have a huge update as to what the Chicago Bulls are going to do in the offseason. This comes off the heels of what DeMar DeRozan said in a shoot-around yesterday before we beat the Detroit Pistons. He is implying that he emphatically wants to go ahead and re-sign with the Chicago Bulls, and he wants the franchise to work it out in any way possible that they need to ensure that he comes back to the Chicago Bulls. We're going to be talking about what DeMar DeRozan had to say to reporters here and what this means for our franchise moving into the offseason, guys. And I promise you this, some of the comments that DeMar DeRozan made is actually a little bit of a head scratcher, considering that, one, we have really given the front office the business when it comes down to these channels and the videos that we put up, because we're really in a flux of what the actual franchise is trying to do, what their direction is from coaching to player personnel and everything else. And DeMar DeRozan actually praises this, and he also seems to be anticipating playing with a player who we really don't know what he's going to do, and that is Lonzo Ball. So we're going to be talking about all that here on the video. This is Rico Greenhowe, your host of Bulls Digest. And before we jump into the content, guys, want to let you know that 83.2% of you guys that watch the videos are not subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with the latest news and happenings of your Chicago Bulls. With that being said, guys, let's jump right into this thing, and that is why DeRozan wants to re-sign with the Bulls. Now, this comes on the heels of a comment that he made in yesterday's shoot-around, guys, and just keep in mind, too, as well, that this was actually done by Casey Johnson, who is the Bulls beat reporter and also writes for the Chicago Sun Times there. So this is a pretty legit article here and a pretty legit reporter here reporting on this. So let's go ahead and break into actually what was being said here in that locker room prior to the Detroit Pistons getting beat here yesterday by the Chicago Bulls. All right, so DeMar DeRozan on potential Bulls return. This is where I want to be. And here is what he had to say. This is where I want to be, he said in an interview following Thursday morning shoot-around at Little Caesars Arena. The 15-year veteran having another stellar campaign that likely will again make him a finalist for the Jerry West Clutch Player of the Year award could become an unrestricted free agent this offseason. The Bulls are are finishing another middling season with a 3-game trip headed to the play-in tournament for the second straight season. And yet DeRozan not only hopes a contract extension comes before unrestricted free agent begins on July 1st, he reiterated his season-long stance that he doesn't like to bail on tough situations. In this day and age of player empowerment and stars asking for changes of address and to form super teams, DeRozan is unabashedly old school and loyal to the end. I love ownership. I love everything about the city and the franchise top to bottom. The front office, the staff we have, he said, it's one of those places that gives me motivation to see everybody get what they deserve and feel what winning is like again. DeRozan, who has made similar comments during a sit-down earlier this season in Indianapolis, has clearly outplayed the 3-year $81.9 million contract he signed in August 21 in his sign and trade transaction with the San Antonio Spurs. He made 2 All-Star teams the last 2 seasons and leads the NBA in minutes played and fourth quarter scoring this season. Management and coach Billy Donovan praised the leadership with Bulls' young core and steady personality through trying times. You watch me, how hard I play, how hard I want to give success to this organization, this city. That's my main focal point. I always want to finish a job. The last couple years have been tough with injuries and so many ups and downs, but I always want to weather the storm and stick through whatever situation it is to make the most of it, to make it even better, DeRozan said. That's always been my mindset. It's my mindset going forward. How can I be here and make this a winning organization like when I first came? He says, the feeling, the vibe, the energy that was around when we had that run in 21-22. I want the city and all these players to experience that again. And for myself, it's always easy to complain and say what's not, but I made it clear this is where I want to be and ride it out. I don't want to go nowhere. And this is interesting what he said too as well in regards to Lonzo Ball. He says, I haven't had a chance to see his workouts in person, but when I check on him, it's always a positive feedback. I'm hoping for the best. I hope he does play again. I want to see him back on the court. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about when we had Lonzo and how he was playing, how we were playing, and the things he was doing on the court was remarkable. One thing about Zoe, he's been one of the strongest individuals I've seen. How positive he has stayed, DeRozan said. There has been times I've called and checked on him in the summertime, gone to his house, and it don't feel like he's missed a couple of seasons. All right, guys, so it is a lot to unpack in this article. All right, so first and foremost, DeRozan just basically reinstates that he wants to come back to the Chicago Bulls. And if we know anything about this franchise, and the one thing that has been really, I think, the current theme of this franchise is that they like to stay stagnated. All right. And essentially, they've already come out this week and said, hey, we want to retain Billy Donovan and his services. We are not going to fire Billy Donovan. This comes in the wake of what is going on with the fact that Billy Donovan is considered the favorite to possibly be the University of Kentucky's head coach, And so with that being said, if the franchise is willing to commit to its coach, I am willing to believe that the franchise is going to be willing to commit to DeMar DeRozan as well. And, you know, this is going to be one of those situations where I think we're headed to a run it back situation. All right. Because based off the reports that have been out there, so far we have been unsuccessful in finding something that really makes sense for Lavine. I think that we're probably going to lose some people, mainly like a guy like Andre Drummond. And who knows what's going to happen with Patrick Williams as well. But you know, this is another thing that is a head scratcher, because we literally are like, you really want to come back to this franchise? Like, I love the fact that he's dedicated to us and he wants to do the right thing. And he's a huge leader, I think, for Kobe White. And he's also been a huge leader, too, for Ayo as well. Like, I think that his impact on them has been incredible. I love the fact that he leads the league in fourth quarter scoring, and he's probably going to win the clutch award, in my opinion. I have said that DeMar DeRozan is a guy that you're not going to find him in free agency from anywhere else. Even if we were to go out and get a good free agent, we're not going to be able to really replace that mindset, all right? And I know he's probably on the side of age at this point in time where we obviously don't want to commit a long-term contract to him, but knowing the Chicago Bulls, I think that he's basically saying he wants to be here, and I think the Chicago Bulls are going to try to find a way to make that happen, even if we overpay for DeMar DeRozan. So even if we do that, guys, I think that we're in a situation where we're headed to an offseason where we may not see a whole bunch of shakeups, and we might actually be running it back. Unfortunately, I think that maybe is where we're heading, because I just don't see the Bulls not taking this serious, especially if he is willing to embrace this franchise, which is what I think the Chicago front office was really looking for, right? For him to say, I do. And he said that. He's reiterated it. I think it's going to happen. And I think it's interesting to me that DeMar DeRozan still clearly believes in Lonzo Ball. I know we have huge question marks on him. I have question marks on him. I think that he's either going to be one of two players. I think he's either going to be like a Sean Livingston that comes off the bench later in his years like he did for Golden State. And I think he's either going to be on that other end, he's going to be like a Brandon Roy type player. I've said that a couple times, where that's a guy who never really recovered to his status, because the knee injury that Lonzo is coming back from, nobody in sports has been able to really come back from this and be successful. And I know the Chicago Bulls are rooting for him. Clearly, DeMar is rooting for him. And you're getting the sense that DeMar DeRozan really feels like if they're able to get Lonzo back, then perhaps he feels like he can actually push through that wall and perhaps get to some type of success. I mean, I'm not willing to say it's going to be a title. I will say this. With what DeMar DeRozan said, it reminds me a lot of what Giannis said when he was in a contract extension with Milwaukee. You remember there was a lot of speculations about Giannis moving on to Golden State, and he was like, you know what? I am not going to just run away from this wall. I'm willing to push through this wall, go through this, whatever this is going to take to get it done here in Milwaukee. And they won a championship the next season. Now, I'm not saying the Chicago Bulls are going to win a championship next season, guys. So before you go ahead and roast me on that, I'm just saying, though, I love his dedication. I love his commitment. And I just will say this to the Chicago Bulls fans out there. Ask yourself, is there another player besides DeMar DeRozan and really what he brings that we're going to find in free agency? Now, I think we should sign him and somehow find a way to get it on a team-friendly deal. I don't know what that looks like, guys. I literally would have to sit down and think about this, but I don't know. If he's willing to go ahead and commit to us and he's seeing that we're willing to go ahead and move some pieces, because he just says, quote unquote, you guys do whatever you got to do to get me here, but I want to be here. So that means that I'm just saying, if our front office is willing to go ahead and trade Lavine, if we're willing to make some moves and then go ahead and say, all right, we're going to give you some money. We may have to give you lesser of some money to get you some more pieces here, but we appreciate your commitment to winning, and we're going to go ahead and build the best team around you, Kobe White, and then also, too, with Dosunmu as well. Then, I mean, maybe that sounds like this is going to be maybe one of the best deals that we can get to start off going into free agency, guys. But let me know what you guys think, guys. I mean, these comments come on the heel of kind of what Billy Donovan is saying. I don't know what the water is that they're drinking here in Chicago. Everybody wants to say I do now. But do you guys think that this is going to be good for us in the offseason? Do you guys feel like the DeMar DeRozan coming back to the Chicago Bulls is necessary? Do you guys feel like DeMar DeRozan, who is probably going to be a Hall of Famer, should go? Let me know in the comments what you guys think, guys. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? This is Rico Greenhowe. This is Bulls Digest. And I know, guys, it looks like we're heading to this merry-go-round of just the same old, same old. But as usual, I will say this, guys. Peace and go Bulls. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.